He called me his servant in front of everyone, so I moved out without a word. Now he's broke, and his mom calls me nonstop. Hello, my name is Serena. I'm 27 years old and female. Plus, Albert, 28, my boyfriend of nearly 2 years, if you can call it that. And I had been living together for about 13 months. It isn't a charming oh my god, we moved in for love situation. It was mainly practical. His lease was up, and my apartment was falling apart. And not gonna lie, I thought it would be fun at first, and it was, until it was not. I'll go back to that. So this weekend, we were invited to this party. They weren't even our buddies. Claire, our landlord's daughter, said, "Hey, you guys are always super chill with the rent stuff. Come hang." I had only met Claire once in person. She prefers group messages for rent reminders over face-to-face interactions. Albert, on the other hand, is all for it, claiming that it will help him network. For what? No idea. He always says that regarding unrelated situations. For example, "Bro, you're not running for office." Anyway, I basically said yes, because I hadn't been out in weeks and figured there'd be free munchies, and if it became boring, I could leave early. We arrive, and it's more fancier than I expected. Not wealthy fancy, but there is actual glassware, and someone is already playing a Spotify playlist on a Bluetooth speaker that does not sound like it was thrown in a toilet, which is unusual for these scenarios. However, there is an odd atmosphere that comes across immediately. Claire is wearing an expensive-looking velvet top, and everyone seems to know each other except for us. And Albert acts like he's on, I don't know, maybe a talk show or anything. He's all handsy, laughing too loudly, and nudging me as if he wants me to work the room with him. I'm only there for the chips. At first, I'm simply meandering about, telling Claire about how bad our shower pressure is, and how the dryer occasionally makes strange noises. And I notice Albert is already sipping quickly, with the second cup in his hand by the time I complete the first. I make a joke about him working hard on a Saturday, and he simply shrugs and says something about needing to relax after a week of dealing with my nagging. Not even a smile. I'm not sure, but it stung, so I just brushed it off, right? He's always had a caustic response, but lately it's become more direct. I know I might be a little overbearing at times, but if I don't remind him about payments, guess who gets the angry text from Claire? Spoiler. It's not him. So around 30-ish minutes in, I realize I'm basically following him around and cleaning up after him. And he's simply chatting to two individuals I don't recognize. And I heard him say something like, "Oh, Serena's super helpful. Couldn't keep my place clean if she wasn't around." But his tone isn't complimentary. It's as if he is laughing at me. I try to brush it off again, but then he starts ranting about how he never has to worry about rent being late because someone is effectively his accountant and maid. The boys chuckle but aren't sure if it's humorous. I give him this look, and he simply winks at me. I go into the kitchen to fetch another drink, but now I'm upset. Here's where things get worse. I suppose I should clarify that Albert has always been one of those individuals who jokes but is truly cruel. For example, if I call him out, he would say, "Lighten up. It's just a joke. Why are you so sensitive?" But it's always about something I do for him or forget, and he never let it go. He'll remind me of the time I mistakenly shrunk his hoodie like it was a running gag. But if I bring up his story, it's old news. So sure, I spent the entire night watching him become drunk. And I'm texting my friend Avery beneath the table like, "Pause, distract me before I throw a chip at his head." By the time it's maybe 11 p.m., most people are pretty tipsy, but Albert is clearly gone. I try to encourage him to drink some water. He ignores me and begins to speak louder, as if he is performing for the room. Claire comes up and sits next to me, quietly asking, "Is he always like this?" I simply shrug. She appears uneasy. I simply say, "He's had a rough week," which is the most ridiculous excuse. His week was not bad. He left his laundry in the washer, and now everything smells like mildew. That is on him. So, at some point, someone brings up living with partners and the hardest tasks. Albert decides it's time to shine. He rises up, raises his drink as if toasting, and says, "Oh, you want to know what it's like to live with Serena? She's basically my maid with benefits. Good for scrubbing toilets and paying rent, but way too boring for anything else." Yes, he actually shouted that aloud to the entire group, and everybody just freezes. Claire's face is like, "Did he just say that?" A couple of his pals laugh, but largely it's the awkward, "Oh God, please don't drag me into this" laugh. I just stood up. I'm not loud or anything. I just started heading down the hall. Albert, this guy physically grabs my wrist. It wasn't too hard, but it was enough to put me off. And he does this thing where he's like, "Oh look, she's going to leave. Sit down, Serena, come on." And he turns to the group, shaking my handbag in the air and says, "Look guys, she doesn't even have the guts to walk away. Pathetic, isn't she?" People truly laugh. Like, not all of them, but enough to make my face hot. Claire is simply staring at the floor. I pull my wrist away. He doesn't let go at first, but I pull it. I'm not going to lie. It wasn't gentle. And I simply stand there for a moment, unsure what to do, because I don't want to make things weirder. But I'm not going to cry in front of these folks. So I sat back down. I take my purse from his grasp and simply place it on my lap. He's still standing there, trying to garner more chuckles, but it's losing steam. For the following hour, I scarcely moved. I scroll through my phone, pretending to text, but all I'm doing is staring at my lock screen. I'm thinking of all the times I took up his slack, covered for his late payments with Claire, and did his dishes when he forgot. And I feel like a complete idiot because this is the person who, when we first started dating, would bring me coffee in bed and tell how much he loved me. Now I'm merely the target of his made jokes. Eventually, a couple of individuals approach me and clumsily inquire about my well-being. I just claim I am all right. I am just weary. Claire sits next to me and gently says, "You don't have to stay." But I just shake my head because I don't want to raise a scene. Plus, Albert is still lingering around the door, as if he is defending it. He's resting against the wall, scrolling through his phone, and I see him type something on Instagram. I know he's probably messaging his group chat about how nuts I am. I really want to leave, but every time I rise up he gets in the way. Claire tries to go past him to let her dog out, but he ignores her and blocks the hallway until she actually pushes him out of the way. He slips a little, nearly drops his phone, and gets angry at her for shoving, but she simply instructs him to move. I see all of this and think, okay, so it's not just me. He's just like this, I guess. He has to be the center of attention at all times, and if he feels ignored, he brings everyone down with him. It's very evident. Now that I'm paying attention, my phone keeps buzzing all night. I receive texts from Avery wondering if I'm okay, and I just answer, "It's fine, I'll call her later." I also got a couple of texts from my mother, which is strange because she never texts this late, but she's asking if I'll come by tomorrow. I almost respond only to have an excuse to go, but I don't want to start something in front of these folks. I know if I go, he'll make a fuss. So I'm simply waiting. Finally, it's approximately 2 a.m., and many are leaving. I get up, take my coat and start towards the door. Albert stands there, arms folded, and just stares at me. I do not say anything. I just walked past him. He mutters something beneath his breath. I couldn't tell what it was, probably more of the same. I step outside and stand on the porch for a minute, trying to regain my breath. Claire comes out to hand me my charger. I left it plugged in. She glances at me as if she's about to say something, but she does not. Just instruct me to text her about the dryer if things become worse. I nod, thank her, and then go. The walk home took about 10 minutes, and I spent the entire time replaying everything in my thoughts. I get to our apartment, go directly to bed, and don't say anything to Albert when he eventually enters, slamming the door behind him. He doesn't even glance at me, he simply kicks off his shoes and walks to the bathroom. I lie there going through Reddit, entering stuff into my notes app to ensure I don't forget anything. So that's how my Saturday night went. I'm so angry I'm shaking. I'm not sure what I should do next, but I'm not going to let this slip. If anyone is interested, there will be a second installment. I just had to get this out. I apologize if this is a disaster. I'm still really angry. Update 1. Okay, I didn't expect I'd be back so quickly, but a lot of you requested the next chapter, and typing it down is stopping me from screaming at my phone. Plus, I believe I'm still too upset to do anything else right now. I'm not sure if this is even readable. I'm operating on about 4 hours of sleep and a large iced coffee, which isn't helping my anxieties. Okay, here we go. So I woke up after that disastrous party, checked my phone, and the alerts were crazy. Albert's parents missed 20 calls. His mom sent him texts with messages such as, Please call us. Are you okay? What's going on with Albert? Can we talk? He even missed FaceTime with his sister. And gal, I just set my phone to quiet and stared at the ceiling for a while. Couldn't deal. Albert was snoring on the couch, which is unusual because he rarely sleeps there unless he's trying to be theatrical. But I believe he passed out after arriving home. I walked past him to fetch some cereal, and he simply said something and rolled over. Oh, and the kitchen was filthy. For example, last week's Solo cups were still available. The sink was full of his dishes. The counter was sticky from when he attempted to make homemade margaritas and spilled sugar everywhere. It looked like someone had hosted a toddler party there and neglected to clean up. I just stared at it thinking, I'm the only one who ever does any of this. Every single time. I can't recall the last time he took out the garbage without being reminded. He always claims he's just lousy at seeing messes, but he notices when I miss a spot. I sat with my coffee, trying to figure out what to do. I could just leave. I may text Claire and inform her that he is now responsible for the rent. I could pack my belongings and stay with my mother or Avery for a few days. But really, I want him to feel it. I want him to have to deal with the mess he's created, both physically and figuratively. I want him to understand how much I care, since he doesn't. He never has. And after last night, I'm not in the mood to become a bigger person. I'm petty, but proud. So I started building a list, literally on my notes app. Everything I paid for. Every time, I paid his portion of the rent. Every bill I put up. Every cleaning supply I purchased. Every weird item he forgot in the shop, I just picked up. The list is long. I scrolled for a whole minute simply looking at the minor details. Toilet paper, paper towels, Swiffer refills, laundry cards, light bulbs, trash bags, that dumb scented candle he enjoys. Literally everything. I even uncovered Venmo receipts from last year when he couldn't access his account, and I covered his internet usage for 3 months straight. Never repaid me. Just kept saying, I'll get it next time. Correct. The more I went through it, the madder I became. I started photographing things around my apartment. The couch is mine. I bought the TV when I moved in. The plates, silverware, microwave, and linens are literally all mine. Except for the ugly lamp he received from his parents and the broken kettle that he promises to replace, but never does. I began mentally grouping things together, such as, what can I take without needing a U-Haul? What do I actually care about? What would he even notice is gone. I emailed Avery and asked if I could use her car the following weekend. She just replied with a middle finger emoji and the words, say less. I adore her. I ignored Albert all morning. He walked into the kitchen at midday looking completely dead. He made a huge show of pouring water and massaging his temples. I sat there scrolling through my phone, not trying to be engaged in making him breakfast. He eventually tried to make small talk, stating he couldn't recall anything from the previous night. I just answered, you said enough. He looked perplexed for a moment, then became defensive, saying, oh come on, you know I was kidding. Everyone jokes like that. I just gazed at him and did not respond. He got furious and returned to the couch. My mother called again and asked if I was coming to supper. She could see something was wrong, but I only replied I wasn't feeling well. I would text her later. She inquired if Albert was coming, and I chuckled. She didn't push, simply told me to call if I needed anything. I should have told her then, but I didn't want to go through the whole, we warned you about him speech. Parents never let it go. Albert spent the remainder of the afternoon on his phone, surfing TikTok and texting with his friends. I heard him giggle several times, then he became quite quiet. I looked over and saw he was in a group chat with Carson and Andrew, his 2 ride-or-die college mates. They were discussing how awkward last night was. Someone said Claire appeared irritated. Albert simply stated, she'll get over it. She always does. I snapped a screenshot and stored it, just in case. Not for blackmail or anything, just to prove that he knows he's an ass. Around 5 I started packing my belongings. Not everything. Just the little things. My chargers, makeup, favorite hoodie, headphones, novels, and laptop. Things he'd never notice missing. Everything went into my bag and into my car. He didn't even inquire where I was going. He simply told me to bring back some chips if I went by the store. I slammed the door as I exited. I sat in the car for a minute, inhaling, before driving to Avery's to drop off my stuff. She didn't ask any questions, just offered me a soda and turned on some music. Girl, I nearly sobbed, but I didn't. When I returned, Albert was on Xbox, shouting at a kid online about camping and Spawn. I entered the bedroom and began looking through the closet. Half of the clothes in there are mine, but he always leaves his belongings in a pile on the floor. I began folding my belongings into a laundry bag. He came in and asked what I was doing. I simply answered, laundry. He shrugged and returned to his game. I cooked dinner just for me. He walked in and asked where he was. I informed him that he could make his own. He literally pouted, like a child. I just walked past him and went into my room. I spent the night messaging Claire. I inquired if she was all right after yesterday night, and she answered she was just ashamed of everyone. She apologized for having to deal with Albert, and told me to let her know if I ever needed assistance with the flat. I inquired whether she believed her father would allow Albert to stay if I moved out. She responded, "Well, you're not on the lease, are you?" "Just him." I said, "Yeah, just him. Since when we moved in, he promised to handle the paperwork and never put my name down. I just mentioned it would be less complicated." She added, "Then he's responsible for the rent." I remarked, "Good to know." She responded with a thumbs up emoji. I began to feel slightly better. Next morning, I began relocating more of my belongings. Albert hardly noticed. He was debating with Andrew about fantasy football while moaning about the Wi-Fi. I began unplugging things that were mine and storing them in boxes. I took the router, which I paid for, the coffee maker, the kitchen knives, my blender, my throw pillows, and even the air fryer. I left all of his belongings, his old laptop, his gaming chair, and his mess of miscellaneous wires that he claims he'll arrange someday. I asked Avery to come help me with the heavy items. She arrived at about 2. We loaded her car with boxes. He came out and inquired what we were doing. I said, "Moving some things." He just nodded and went back inside. I left the necessities for the next day: my bed, dresser, and bathroom supplies. I imagined I would return when he was at the gym. He goes every Tuesday at 6 p.m., just like clockwork. Always shares a sweaty mirror selfie on Snapchat. I texted Claire that I'd be out by the weekend. She answered, "Just let me know if there are any problems." I replied that I'd put my keys in the mailbox that night. Albert acted as if nothing was unusual. He asked if I'd want to watch something. I replied, "No thanks." He pouted again. I nearly laughed. He remarked that the kitchen was empty. I responded, "Maybe go to the store." He said, "Why are you being like this?" I said, "You know what you did?" He rolled his eyes and walked away. I shut the restroom door and stayed there for about 20 minutes. My mother called again. I finally responded by informing her that I was moving out. She said, "Oh, honey." She didn't seem surprised. She merely asked, "Do you need help moving?" I replied, "Maybe, but Avery has it." She said, "Do you want to stay here for a while?" I said, "Maybe, but I think I'll be fine." She said, "Okay, just let me know." I nearly told her everything, but I didn't. So now comes the good part. The following day, Albert leaves for the gym at 6 a.m. I text Avery. She comes over. We gathered the remainder of my belongings. I place a note on the counter with a list of everything he owes me for the past year. Rent, bills, groceries, cleaning supplies, and so on. As well as a note that says it's your turn to pay. Don't forget the toilets. I placed my keys in the mailbox. I take one more look at the apartment. It appears sad. The energy in the air calls me pathetic. I go away without looking back. I went to Avery's. She gives me a drink, and we spend hours watching silly YouTube videos. My mother texts to say she is proud of me. I did not reply immediately. I just want to be alone for a bit. Later that night, I received a series of texts from Albert. He's mad. Says I surprised him. He accuses me of being selfish for leaving him to handle all of the finances. He says he can't believe I would do this to him. I do not reply. He calls me. I ignore it. He calls again and again. I blocked him. I blocked his mother. I blocked his sister. I also block Andrew and Carson, just in case. I text Claire and tell her I'm leaving. She adds, "Thank you for informing me." I inquire whether Albert has paid the rent yet. She answers, "Not yet." I say, Good luck with that. So, that's where I am at. I'm out. I am gone. And I left him with a disaster that he can't ignore. He always aspired to be the big man, the one in charge, the one who never did anything wrong. He can now figure out how to clean up after himself, both literally and metaphorically. I am not saying I am finished either. If he wants to play games, I can join. But for now, I'm going to let him stew. Perhaps now he will know who is truly sad. Please let me know if you would like any additional updates. I have a hunch this isn't done yet. Update 2. Okay, I'm not going to lie, I didn't expect to be posting again so soon, but folks kept asking for updates. And honestly, things became messier than I thought. I also need a place to vent because if I keep ranting about it in my group chat, Avery will show up at my house with a bottle and a baseball bat, and I'm not sure who she'll hit first, me or Albert. So, shortly after I moved out, I assumed Albert would just ignore me. Maybe attempt to trash talk me in front of his pals and then just deal. But no, he went full drama mode. I'm barely even out of Avery's car when I get the first angry text, followed by another, then another. All capitals too. He claims I set him up, that I'm wrecking his life, and that his parents are panicked because they thought I was missing. And now they're phoning him constantly, asking what happened. Like, buddy, maybe you should have considered that before calling me your maid in a crowded setting. Anyway, I disregard everything since I'm not going to play into his hands. Avery keeps telling me to block him, which I already have, but he starts using different numbers. Send me a direct message on Instagram, then on Facebook, which I haven't checked since last year. I simply leave everything unread. I guess he's hoping I'll come back just to stop him up, but not now. What I didn't foresee was how quickly his financial issues would escalate. Claire texts me around 2 days after I left, wondering if I know when Albert will pay rent. I just gave her a screenshot of his latest, "I'll get it next time" text and stated, "Not my circus anymore." She responded with a bunch of laughing emojis and a yikes. He apparently informed her that I would cover for him if there were any problems, which is ridiculous, considering I literally told her I was leaving. I assume he figured I'd continue running his errands from a distance. The group chat turmoil escalates here. So, Albert and I were in a group chat with a few of his friends, Andrew, Carson, Gabriella, and some of their women. Mostly for silly memes, party invitations, and debating about where to order food. I had been quiet there for a long time. But I decide, you know what? If he's going to attempt to spin this as if I'm the evil person, I'm not going to be quiet. So I send a message, not in fury, but just facts. Hey, since Albert keeps messaging me about abandoning him, here's all the rent receipts. Here's the stuff I paid for. Here's screenshots of his maid with benefits joke and his texts about having me trained. Not trying to start a war, just clearing up the facts. Not gonna lie, that conversation blew up. Two of the guys attempt to defend Albert, claiming that he was just intoxicated and didn't mean it. Gabriella claims she always believed he treated me poorly, and is relieved I finally left. Andrew claims I'm being dramatic, but I simply send a photo of the letter I placed on the counter with the total amount he owes me for the year. Silence for about an hour after that. Carson ultimately texts me privately, asking whether I'm fine and if I need any assistance moving anything else. I say, "I'm fine, but thank you." And he simply responds, "Albert is having a rough time." I don't respond. Meanwhile, Claire informs me that her father is now involved since Albert failed to pay rent for the first time in his life and attempted to blame me as well, which, like, good luck. My name isn't even on the lease. Her father is upset and informs Albert that he has 1 week to pay, or he will leave. I can almost see Albert attempting to argue his way out of it. All phony charm. But it doesn't work this time. In normal life, I'm just trying to keep things moving. I'm at Avery's for a few days, sleeping on her couch, and we're joking about how I should bill Albert for maid services. My mother calls every day to see whether I'm all right, and I keep saying yes, but she keeps offering to bring over groceries or pick me up if I need a break. I finally go over there for supper, and she cooks lasagna without saying, "I told you so," which is her idea of a hug. He texts Avery, wondering if she can talk some sense into me. She sends him a simple, "Don't ever text me again," and then blocks him. I appreciate her for that. He tries Carson, who simply leaves him to read. Andrew attempts to call me, and I let it go to voicemail. He leaves a rambling message about Albert's awful situation and how everyone makes errors. I've simply erased it. I'm not interested in getting guilted into solving his problems. So, social pressure is actually working. People are not buying his poor me act. Claire claims her father is fed up and ready to start showing the home to potential tenants if Albert fails to pay the rent by Friday. That's about 3 days away. I'm not going to lie, I get a little satisfaction from it. I mean, for more than a year, I've been discreetly handling everything. Cleaning up, paying bills, apologizing to Claire for late payments, and representing him with his parents. He's now on his own to answer for everything, and he's struggling. The finest aspect is that there are actual consequences. Claire's father is not being nasty. He is only conducting business. He adds if Albert does not pay, he must leave. Carson tells me Albert is trying to borrow money from everyone, but no one wants to offer him anything because they all know he won't pay it back. Even Andrew, who is normally his #1 hype man, admits he has bills. Gabriella apologizes for not noticing how he treated me sooner. I just tell her it's fine. I'm all right now. I received a text from Albert's mother from a strange number, as I had blocked her primary one, asking if I would assist Albert out. Just this once for old time's sake. She says he is really suffering and doesn't know how to keep up with things. I simply emailed back, I'm not his maid. She never responds. Oh, and this is petty, but I am not sorry. A few days later I returned to the flat with Claire. She let me in to get the remainder of my belongings, a box of books and my old blender, which Albert never used but insisted on keeping just in case. He was there, and he tried to argue with me, saying I ruined his life and that I didn't have to reveal it. I just answered, you did that yourself. He tried to come in my way, staying in the corridor and refusing to move, so I pushed past him. He shut the door behind me. Claire just rolled her eyes and replied, he's not your problem anymore. I gathered my belongings and left. So, I don't know, but I think I'm finally understanding how much of his attitude was based on entitlement. As if he truly believed I'd always cover for him, clean up after him, pay his bills, and laugh at his jokes. He used to say that I was good at keeping things together, but in reality, he didn't want to do anything. And when he was called out, he attempted to make me look like the villain. Now he's stuck. He has only himself to blame, and every time he tries to make me the bad guy, it only backfires. People are beginning to see through the act. Even his parents who used to contact me for everything. Serena, did you remind Albert to call his grandma? Serena, did Albert find his insurance card? Are learning they can't make me solve it. I am not being mean. Just finished. I'll keep you updated if anything else happens. But, to be honest, I believe this is the beginning of him dealing with his own mess. And if you're reading this and you're the Serena in your relationship, believe me, you don't owe anyone your sanity or credit score. I suppose that's all for now, unless he tries something new, which wouldn't surprise me at all. Update 3. Okay, so this is probably going to be my last update for a bit unless something genuinely crazy occurs, because not gonna lie, I'm exhausted, and I need to finally get on with my own work. But I promised a last wrap-up, and honestly, this one is lengthy. So, if you're still reading, thank you for your support, DMs, and girl same comments. I'm not used to random online strangers rooting for me, so this is very good. After the last piece, I was largely just waiting to see if Albert would pay his rent or get kicked out. And to be honest, I didn't think he'd go down without one final weak move. I was not mistaken. But first, let me start with the craziest part. His parents. So, the morning after I left for good, I still had 20 missed calls from his mother, father, and even his sister's old phone number. I'm not sure, but I kept ignoring them, and to be honest, it got to the point where I felt pity for not even responding to their texts. Examples include, I'm alive, leave me alone. But then, around midday my phone starts blowing up again. The same numbers, but with longer voicemails. His mother, frantic, asked me to just talk to her, claiming Albert is in poor form, hasn't eaten, can't sleep, and has never been like this before. I listen to about half a message, roll my eyes, and then delete it. I'm not cold-hearted, but I'm no longer his mediator. I am not his father, therapist, or maid. The next thing, and this is the bit that truly makes me want to flip a table, she begins texting my mother. Like my actual mother. I imagine she still had her phone number from the one time they met at a holiday event. I only discovered it after my mother called and said, is everything okay? Albert's mom says he can't pay rent and he needs you to come back and talk some sense into him. My mother simply sounded tired, as if she expected me to say I was getting back together with him. But I told her straight up, nope, I'm done, he's on his own. Please don't answer her anymore. She simply answered, okay, and asked if I needed her to bring over groceries. Albert keeps calling. Now he alternates between madness and sadness. Like one moment it's, you ruined my life, and the next it's, I'm sorry, come back, I'll change. I ignore every single call. He tries other numbers and even tries to FaceTime me. I block everything. It's really like whack-a-mole. Avery still laughs about it. He suggests I start charging him by the call. Meanwhile, Claire texts me that her father has finally given Albert the official notice. He has to go by Friday if he cannot pay. Apparently he tried to secure an extension by claiming his ex sabotaged him. Claire's father simply stated, it's not my business. Pay or move. Albert attempts to guilt everyone else. Carson texts me that Albert tried to borrow money from him and claimed I stole his belongings. Nope. I literally grabbed only what was mine and left the rest, including receipts. Gabriella texts me, claiming Albert DM'd her and asked if she could vouch for him if Claire's father inquired about payment history. She gave him a gif of someone laughing, and that changed my night. Andrew is the only individual who does not appear to be taking sides, but that is because he dislikes drama, not because he is neutral. He texts me and says he doesn't want to become involved, which is practically his mantra in life. So by Thursday, Claire texts me that Albert is in complete panic mode. He's behind on everything, rent, internet, and possibly even his weird subscriptions. I still receive emails regarding his previous food box service, which, not my problem. I believe he tried calling Claire's father again, and when that failed, he contacted his mother, who then called me again. This time I picked it up, mainly because I was annoyed. She begins with an entire conversation. Please, Serena. I know he messed up, but he's so lost without you. He's not good at handling life stuff. You know how he is. I've only just stated, sorry, I'm not part of this anymore. You need to talk to your son, not me. She begins crying briefly, which is embarrassing, and I simply say goodbye and hang up. I believe Albert treats people this way because he has always gotten away with it. His parents, for example, lavish him with attention. His friends either dismiss it or laugh it off. And I was only the latest person to take up the slack. He gets loud when he's humiliated, jokes when he's nervous, and when that doesn't work, he just waits for someone else to come solve things. I mean, I knew he was lazy, but I never realized how much he relied on people to pick up after him until I stopped doing it. So anyhow, Friday arrives. I'm eating leftover noodles in my new house, which is just a shoebox, but it's mine. When Claire texts me, just a thumbs up, he's gone. Albert apparently did not pay, and did not pack up half of his belongings. Instead, he simply left them. Claire's father indicated he could come get the rest if he wanted, but the locks had been changed, and he no longer lives there. I inquired if he caused a scene. She only claims he cried briefly, slammed the door and fled. I nearly feel awful for a second, but then I recall how he behaved at that party, and I'm simply, nah. I do not. And get this. He tries to show up at my new place. I mean literally knocking on the door. I hear it, and look out the window to see him standing there, his hoodie drawn up and holding a grocery bag. I do not open the door. I text Avery, who is really in the next building over, and she comes out, stands on the sidewalk, and simply stares at him until he departs. He doesn't say anything to her and simply walks away. Avery texts me, dude is lost. I block his phone number again, just in case. The next day, I received a note in my mailbox. It's from Albert, handwritten, which is unusual. He only writes when absolutely necessary. It's like 3 paragraphs of apologies, explanations, pleading for a second chance, stating he can't do it alone, that he didn't mean anything, blah blah. He even offers to repay me for everything if I return. I tear it up and discard it, not even bothering to react. So that's all, I suppose. Albert has left. I'm out. Claire's family has already started tidying the apartment for new renters. His folks tried everything, even called my mother again. She simply ignores them now. Gabriella claims Albert is couch surfing at Andrew's house. But Andrew isn't enjoying it, and will probably force him out soon. Carson is still indifferent, but he emailed me that Albert is considering moving back in with his parents. I'm simply pleased I'm not cleaning up after him anymore. The next time someone deems me dull, I will simply chuckle and move on. Because really, I'd rather be boring and free than be trapped cleaning up after some person who believes he's the main character. So, thanks for reading my insane story. If you're ever in a scenario where you're doing all the work and someone treats you like a helper, don't wait for a major revelation. Simply start packing. You'll be surprised at how quickly the trash clears itself. And no, I did not call his parents back. Not my circus, not my monkeys. If Albert wants to get his life in order, he could start by learning how to wash laundry, or at the very least, how to pay his own dang rent. That's it for now. Maybe next time I'll write about something fun. Thanks for watching and sticking around till the end. If you enjoyed these stories, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next drama-filled episode.